let's talk about what you should be eating if you have high blood pressure. You're not going to like this video because in the United States, we eat way too much salt and sodium. The US recommended daily allowance of sodium is 2,300 milligrams. That's not a lot. It's probably a lot less than what you're currently eating. It's important to be able to read labels. You need to start learning how to read food labels, and you look at the back, you look at the salt or sodium content on that label to determine how much sodium you are getting in whatever it is you're about to consume. Be careful when you're reading the labels because you have to look at serving size. Oftentimes, a serving size, like if you're looking at a can of something and it'll say the serving size is 4, and you've eaten that entire thing, then you have to take that sodium content and multiply it by 4 because the content that's listed on there is listed per serving, not per container. So pay attention to that when you're looking at your labels. The things that have sodium in them in the United States, pretty much everything, all processed foods, pickles are very high in sodium. I had a patient one time who had high blood pressure who thought he was being healthy by eating pickles because they're basically cucumbers, but they're very high in sodium because it's pickled. So there's a lot of hidden food. When I'm talking to my patients who have high blood pressure and I start asking about how much salt they take in, they're like, oh, I don't salt anything. I never salt anything. I don't even have a salt shaker. Or I'll just barely salt something. That is a very minimal amount of sodium that you're getting out of your salt shaker on the table. You are much more likely to be getting a ton of salt in anything out of a can has high sodium content. Anything in a can. Frozen dinners, pizza, cheese, especially the hard cheeses have high sodium content. Soy sauce is very high in sodium. When I say sodium and salt, those words are interchangeable. They're the same thing. Bacon, obviously. Lunch meats are very high in sodium. So if you're going to a deli and you're thinking you're being healthy, getting like sliced turkey or something, it's high in sodium. So if you have high blood pressure, you're better off to go get a rotisserie chicken from your grocery store, shred the rotisserie chicken, and have that for your sandwich because there's a lot less sodium in that. So anything that's not processed, anything out of the ground does not have a lot of sodium in it. If you're cooking, one thing that you can do is instead of using onion salt, garlic salt, use onion powder or garlic powder. Another fantastic way to eliminate some sodium but keep your flavor is to use an alternative like a Mrs. Dash or one of those kinds of alternative spice options. Your spices don't have sodium in them, so that's another good way if you're cooking at home and you don't want to use all the sodium or salt, is to use the spices. It takes some work and it takes some effort. If you're eating at a restaurant, they're putting salt in it. As you know, especially like if you go to certain kinds of restaurants and you wake up the next morning and your blood pressure's up and your feet are puffy, whatever you ate had a lot of salt in it. Because those are some outcomes of eating too much salt, is that your blood pressure will go up and you tend to retain fluid and it'll make your weight go up. So if you're wanting to lose weight, this is another reason to limit your salt and sodium intake. It will help your blood pressure.